Hello and welcome to Evolve by Erica, the podcast. This is Erica Polsinelli, your host, and we're here to talk about all things 5D, high vibrational, spiritual health, and beyond. I'm so grateful that you are here. Come on in. Hi guys, today, oh my goodness, I'm so excited to bring you a guest who I've been following for so long. Her outer beauty is what really caught my eye, and as I started to follow her, her inner beauty just resonated so deeply with me, and it radiates beyond her physical body. Her name is Jessie Golden. She's been in the yoga scene, the yoga energy, however you want to say it, for years and years. I think since 2008. She'll tell you more. But she's a mother, she is a creator, she's a CEO, she is a beautiful light worker that we are so lucky to have on this earth at this time. And I am so beyond honored to introduce her today. I can't wait for you guys to hear her story, hear all that she does, and just her insight, her wisdom, feel her energy. I welcome Jessie Golden.
That is the best intro. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored.
Oh my goodness, I'm so honored. I'm so excited. As I was saying in your intro, I've been following you for years now, and it came at the perfect time, right as I was awakening spiritually, and I was starting my Instagram account to share more about spirituality and just all this high vibrational energy. And when I started to follow you, I just saw that it was namaste, the light in me acknowledges and sees the light in you, and it continues. And I love watching you evolve and going through the really dark times that we are. You've been just a constant light of truth, of courage, so grounded and embodied in what you believe. And I'm just so honored to have you here. So thank you.
I'm so happy that translates. Thank you for reassuring me that the word translates. Social media can be a tricky tool, and I'm just so grateful that what I'm putting out there is being read correctly. So thank you.
Oh, it is. It is. It's energy. My soul, the cells in my body feel it, and it's just a breath of fresh air. So I would love for you to start just telling a little bit about yourself, maybe where you are right now in your life, what has brought you here, a little bit about your story.
Yeah, I have quite the story, so I'm going to try and summarize it. So growing up in Chicago, Illinois, I grew up at my mom's dance studio as a dancer, and dance really laid the foundation for my entire life. The passion and the discipline and all of that. But looking back, also being able to have that outlet to transmute energy. I didn't know when I was young, but what I know now, I was a very sensitive spirit, picking up on things all the time. And had I not had that dance to transmute all this energy that I was constantly taking on from everybody else, I don't know what I would have done. So dance really saved my life and laid the foundation for everything. When I was 18, I found yoga. I actually found pranayama, the breathing exercises, first because I was dealing with some anxiety. Mm-hmm. And I just fell absolutely in love with yoga. Yoga was like my first haven where there was a space that I could tune inward. Dance, everything in dance was really external. There was a mirror. It was constant judgment, constant criticism. So it's really crazy because when I found yoga, what attracted me was the breathing, the pranayama. I was dealing with some anxiety at the time, not really sure what was going on. Again, I think that was related to me just being a sensitive person, which I now know how to deal with. But I instantly fell in love with everything about yoga. I loved that it was an inward practice instead of an external practice. My entire life was growing up in the dance studio with a mirror, judging yourself in the mirror, the teacher's judging you. My mom was my dance teacher, so she was also, very critical. So that became my mantra in my head was this very critical mindset trying to achieve this epitome of perfection. And yoga was the complete opposite. It was an inward practice. It was teaching you how to tune in and listen to your body. Breathing was never taught in ballet, which is crazy to me. You're never taught how to breathe. I remember the first yoga class I went to, they said, if you're feeling tired, come to child's pose. And I couldn't believe that, like, you're supposed to listen to your body, because my entire life I was told to ignore every body signal. So I fell in love with yoga, and I say now, I'm 43 years old, it's saved my life over and over. I eventually became certified in 2008 just because I loved the practice. I didn't really have intentions on teaching. I just wanted to absorb everything that I possibly can about everything about yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga, asana, I'm sure the postures are just one limb, but there's so many other limbs like the pranayama and breathing. And when I was 25, I unexpectedly got pregnant with my son, which was the greatest gift ever. He just turned 18. He is my twin. It's crazy. And it was really interesting because I had no intentions on becoming a mother at that point in my life. And the second I found out, I just instantly felt like it was my calling. And I tell people all the time, I really came into my own when I became a mother. I learned so many vital, important lessons that I think you can learn without being a mother, but becoming a mother, it's a really quick way of learning about selflessness and passion and just being a good human, because all of a sudden you have somebody watching you all the time. So he really became my motivation for everything. And when he was around 4 years old, I started having these unusual symptoms with my body. Now, again, going back to my ballet background, I was used to just ignoring all my signals. I think a lot of strong people, when their body starts to shut down or do weird things, we kind of just push harder. We just push through it and we'll get to the other side. But my body wasn't responding well, and I always had an excuse as to why I didn't feel good. I was still breastfeeding, I was a single mom, I was working hard. But long story short, I eventually got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, which was just the most humbling experience of my life. Up until that point, I really felt like I was bulletproof. I was 29. It was the first time where I was like, I'm going to have the human experience now. All my tricks weren't working. My yoga wasn't working. My positive mindset, pushing through, nothing was working. And, it's been almost 15 years now. And I say to this day that it has been my greatest teacher. I say that I'm thriving with rheumatoid arthritis, but it's still there, always kind of lingering, keeping me on my toes. But that really motivated me to want to learn more about health. I eventually became a holistic health practitioner. I learned so much about the body. I think you can go to school and learn a certain way, but living with a chronic disease and actually being the guinea pig yourself, you learn a whole nother set of tools. So I eventually wrote a book called The Golden Secrets to Optimal Health. And at the same time, I was writing a blog. This was before Instagram, before Facebook. MySpace was around. And I just really felt the need to share what was working for me. No one, especially at that time, was talking about autoimmune disease. Rheumatoid arthritis was associated with an older person's disease. People didn't know what to do. So I really felt called to share my story because there just wasn't that much information available for people living with autoimmune disease. So that's when I started the Golden Secrets blog, and I just started sharing anything and everything that had enriched my life in some way, whether it was diet or yoga, specifically things pertaining to rheumatoid arthritis, being a single mom, parenting, mothering. I love talking about giving birth at home and what doctors don't tell you about giving birth and all of those types of things, nursing and all of that stuff. And eventually people wanted to know skincare. And I had already been making my own skincare since high school. And they were very sacred to me. They were like these sacred potions. They were my golden secrets that I never really wanted to share with anybody. But a friend of mine who I really admire in business said, you know, you have that big following on your blog. Like, why don't you bottle that stuff that everyone is always asking you about? Because we were running in the same circles, and everybody would always ask me about the scent or what was on my skin. And he said, you should really bottle that stuff. And I just thought it was the dumbest idea. I thought it was really weird. I was like, why would anyone want that stuff? And then I was also very protective. Like, I don't want to share this. And then I had a moment where I realized that this signature blend essential oil, for instance, had been with me since I was 15. And in every scenario of my life, it was with me every day, and I would pull it out of my purse or off my cabinet or whatever, and I would put it on. And it was just that moment to check in with myself, to tune in, to kind of shift whatever mood I was in. And then the essential oils had their own effects on my mood. And I also noticed that people around me felt better too. And I thought, how could I not share this? Like, this is, at that point I realized, like, my purpose was to kind of share experiences that I had gone through. And I thought, this has been with me forever. I really need to start sharing it. So that's when the whole Golden Secrets skincare started. And now I am the owner of a skincare line, which I had no intentions of being. And I live in Topanga with my husband and our 2 dogs and our 18-year-old son.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There's so much I want to say. There's so much I want to ask, but it's such a beautiful story. And I had a similar experience with pranayama being what drew me in as well. Do you have Aquarius in your chart?
You know what? I don't think I do. I mean, maybe, but not prominently.
Like you were just so ahead of your time. And when I think of Aquarius energy, that's kind of what I visualize, just knowing like what the future will need and paving that way. I'm sure there's something
You
astrology.
know, I was led by an Aquarius, though. I had a cousin. When people ask me, you know, who kind of planted that seed for you, and my cousin was a big impact on me. She was 5 years older than me, and she got her yoga certification before me. She was into essential oils. She was into witchcraft. She was into like all these cool things that I wanted to know more about, like otherworldly stuff. And she was an Aquarius. And
Okay.
my son's dad was an Aquarius. My ex-husband was an Aquarius. So I have a lot of Aquarius energy around me.
Drawn to it because you truly were ahead of your time, and it's interesting even like when you found yoga. And I was just thinking like how that could have shown up at that time for you to prepare you to become a young mother and be able to embrace that, because it really is incredible what yoga brings us. It unlocks so much consciousness within us, and so does the sun. And I know that you are a sun goddess. Oh my gosh, there was just so much I want to touch upon with you. But yeah, so finding yoga at that age and accessing all of that wisdom within you and stepping into motherhood so young. And weren't you a model as well?
So I made a living as a model. It's funny that I kind of just skipped over that whole part, because I think it's because I had a love-hate relationship with modeling. I think a lot of people would just assume that I loved being a model. And I hated being a model. I hated solely being judged on the way I looked. I was used to being judged as a ballerina, but that was based on something that I could work at and practice at. And I
Mm.
just felt like the whole modeling world was so shallow and so vain and so about who you are and schmoozing up to people. And I could never play that game. Like, I treated everybody the same. I didn't care if you were the biggest photographer in the world or working the craft services. Like, I don't care. So it was a really challenging space for me, but I embraced it originally when I became a model full time at 18. I was living on my own in Miami, and it allowed me the freedom to do whatever I wanted. And I thought, well, this is better than a 9 to 5. I was cleaning houses before that. And I thought, okay, well, at least if I model, I can go lay out on the beach the rest of the time, because you don't really work that much. You audition and you work like once a week. So, and then when I got pregnant, I was so happy that pregnancy modeling was just starting to become a thing. Previously, they would just put a fake belly on women. But right around 2003, when I was pregnant, showing a pregnant belly all of a sudden became cool. And yeah, well, I mean, like Gap was one of my biggest clients because they would show a little bit of belly. So they actually needed to hire a real pregnant woman. So I worked my entire pregnancy. That was the first time that I loved modeling, because I thought it was something special that I brought to the table. Like, I'm showing off my pregnant belly. I just thought it was so cool. Yeah. And then when I got my yoga certification was right when all the yoga companies started to come to birth. Ones that aren't even around anymore, but like Lucy Yoga, Under Armour. I launched Under Armour's first yoga campaign, Nike's first yoga campaign, Aloe. I was the first face of Aloe. Like, all the companies I got to launch because I was a model and actually a yoga teacher, and there wasn't a lot of us out there. And I fell in love with modeling again, because all of a sudden now I get to share my love of yoga. And that was my favorite time of being in the industry. It just brought some more substance to what I was doing. And I was really proud of that. And then eventually, when I started the Golden Secret skincare, I remember I was still going on auditions, and I noticed I was being sent on auditions with like 25-year-olds, and I was having to do all my crazy scorpion and all my crazy yoga tricks, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to let these college girls have this job. Like, they can do it so much easier than I can at this point. So I just called my agent and I said, I think I'm retiring. I don't want to go on these auditions anymore. It felt very low vibrational. And that's when I just dove in headfirst into my own company and putting all my energy into that. And that's been a whole nother experience, being on the other side of things now.
Yeah, totally. Wow. So I wanted to ask you about being plant-based, because my journey started becoming plant-based actually is what led to my spiritual awakening. And I know that you were plant-based at one point, and then just hearing your past and also knowing about that as well, and the role that being plant-based played in your life, and listening to your intuition, transitioning eventually out of it. Can you share a little bit of what guided you to go plant-based? What guided you to incorporate more things into your diet? I feel like I was so attached to being plant-based in the beginning because it opened me up spiritually. And as I get older and wiser, I learned to never say never, and always continue to check in with my body and make sure I'm listening to my body and not my ego or what I think is right. So I would just love to hear your experience in that department as well.
Yeah, I mean, you just hit the nail on the head. Like, listening to your body instead of your ego it's a tricky one. But I originally became a vegetarian at age 11 because I got sick eating meat. And it was the first time, it's interesting. When I became a mom, I realized that kids don't make the association that the frozen chicken fingers they're eating is a chicken unless you teach them that. So it was the first time that I made the connection that I was eating a cow, and then I got food poisoning, and it just didn't sit right with me. I became a crazy vegan activist. I joined PETA. I mean, I was 11. I was getting signatures signed at my school. I was arguing with everybody at the dinner table. This was in the 80s, mind you, in Chicago, which was insane. My grandmother was like, you're gonna die if you don't eat meat. I was the weirdest kid. And I sat on that bandwagon for a long time till probably my early 20s. And I just probably wasn't eating right at the time. I was anemic. I was, not really taking the best care of myself. So I started incorporating animal proteins back into my diet. I literally remember, I talk about this moment in my book. I was on a job on location at spending the night at a hotel, and I ordered like a chicken breast, and I told them to kill it, like destroy it. And I literally thought I was going to like blow up after eating it, like literally like die or something, because I hadn't eaten animal meat in so long. But my body actually loved it, and I continued to eat whatever I wanted, basically, until when I got diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. That was the first thing I did, was what am I eating that's triggering, what's inflammatory. And back then, all the knowledge was nightshade vegetables, animal proteins, coffee, cheese, any kind of dairy, like eggs, get rid of it all. So I got rid of all of it and became very strict vegan. And what I feel personally is, I think it did good for me for a while, and I think this is the same for a lot of people. I think it does well for people for a while, and then eventually, and this isn't for everybody, because I think to each their own, but a lot of people, what I'm noticing is you start getting depleted. Your hormones start going out of whack. You're not getting enough nutrients. And I just started to not feel right. And I had to let go of that ego, like you said, that stance that I had again made, being this plant-based person, into, you know what, I'm an intuitive eater. And I took a lot of slack from the on social media. Anytime I share anything that's like against the grain, people come at you. But I think it's so important for people, if they take anything away from listening to this, especially if you're living with a chronic disease or an ailment or something, where you have to be super mindful of your diet. If what you are doing is not working, if your body's biofeedback is screaming, make a switch, and there's no right or wrong. I mean, I've done all the research, I've done all the things, and even with being an animal activist, we're still killing animals, not eating meat, so there just happen to be smaller animals. So, it's a tricky path, but I think that we have to be more compassionate with people's paths, and we're ever evolving as a species, and I think what we're doing isn't working. The more I learn about regenerative farming and holistic grazing, the more I'm thinking that's the path that we actually need to go to. That's the only way that we're going to regenerate our land and our soil and, everything that we're depleted of. So,
Yeah, it's so true. Are you going to have a farm at your new home?
oh, I don't have enough space to like really do that, but I have talked about possibly getting chickens. We'll see. There's a lot of coyotes over here, so I'm like, I just don't know how we would like, But yeah, I would love to. I would love to be completely self-sufficient at some point. That is the
That's
goal.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And what you said about we're always evolving, I think that's something a lot of us know and feel within ourselves all the time, but sometimes on the outside, it's not so embraced and accepted. Like, wait a minute, you were all for this. Now all of a sudden you're not. It's like, yes, actually, I grew, I learned, I changed. And I think we have to normalize that just in our culture
Oh my
more.
gosh, it's so true. I follow a couple people that I really respect in the health industry, and this one person just kind of changed his mind on something and got so much heat for it. And I thought, if we're not able to change our mind without getting destroyed, then what are we doing? Because as we evolve, our needs are going to change, and new information is being found. And I appreciate those people that are constantly changing what they're doing. Those are the
So true.
people that I respect.
And it's already hard. I mean, if we're working with our ego and working through our ego, it's not as hard, but typically it is hard to change. And then to think about other people not accepting us or giving us so much of that intense feedback when we're trying to come out and be like, listen, I learned, I changed. It just is actually, I think some people think that they're being an activist or whatever it may be by speaking out against whatever it could be. But what we're really doing is just reinforcing the ego, and we're making people afraid to either speak their truth or to be able to change and step into that sovereignty. And it's a dangerous cycle that we see all the time on social media. And listeners hopefully know that this is always a safe space to come change your mind. Hopefully my opinions change as I go on, because that means I'm growing, and that should be for all of us. Something that you share that resonates so deeply with me is your philosophy on the sun. When I am in the sun, I literally get energetic downloads, intuitive, psychic downloads. I feel so connected. I feel like the best version of myself. And our society and many doctors I've been to have scared the crap out of me about the sun. And I always knew how the sun made me feel and the truth that I held about the sun. But sometimes it takes hearing it from someone else, someone like you, to know that, like, oh my goodness, what I felt could be right this whole time, and that the sun holds such important power in our consciousness and our health. I just love your philosophy around it. So can you share your philosophy around the sun, some of the healthy sun habits that you have or rituals that you have? Because I think it's so important and so different than what the mainstream is sharing. And of course, listeners, you do what you are guided to do, but I want you to share your experience and just your little nuggets of wisdom about the sunshine.
Yeah, this is another thing that I've gotten a lot of grief for, because I think people misconstrued me saying I love the sun with getting sunburned and frying in the sun. And that's never what I've preached. I grew up in Chicago where we didn't see the sun a lot. So when the sun came out, we worshiped her, Yeah. And even anytime I would get sick or not feel well, my dad would say, go outside and get some sun. So to me, the sun was always portrayed as this healing light. It was never put in a negative tone until I got older. And actually, when I was modeling, my agent would always say, you're too tan, get out of the sun, you're going to look horrible when you get older. You're too dark, what are you doing? And, meanwhile, girls were putting self-tanner on, which is horrible, and all these sunscreens that eventually got recalled that I've been preaching about forever. And it just didn't make sense to me. It just didn't. My entire life, I've always been pulled by nature and what makes sense. And even when you talk about, like, the blue zones, the countries, the places where people live the longest, they are in the sun every single day. Their hands are in the soil. They're growing their own food. Like, we're living beings. Every living being on the planet needs the sun. Like, our bodies are designed to store enough vitamin D through the summer to get us through the winter. But if we're loading up all these sunscreens and toxic products, then going in the sun, not only are we not able to assimilate vitamin D, but we're putting toxins into our body. It's oxidizing as soon as we hit the sun. So for me, it just always felt normal. And the more research I've done, and I've just discovered more and more and more, especially being a skincare owner, because it's just so fascinating. Like, most people that get skin cancer actually live furthest away from the equator, and they get it in areas that the sun never reaches. And so sun therapy, getting vitamin D, actually protects you from getting types of cancer. And then with the skin stuff, it's like, unfortunately, we have just been lied to. Put all these toxic chemicals on your skin, go out into the sun, completely ignore your body's signals. So when you put sunscreen on, you mask your body's own ability to tell you it's gotten enough sun. When your body's, this is different for everybody based on the melanin in your skin. So your signal that you've gotten enough sun is just when you start to get flush. That's usually between 10 and 20 minutes for most people. That's your cue to go inside, put a hat on, throw a shirt on, last case scenario, a mineral sunscreen that does not oxidize in the sun. But a lot of people put all these sunscreens on, mask all those signals, and sit in the sun all day. They end up getting fried. They end up getting hyperpigmentation, all these other skin issues, probably because not only is it toxic, but it's oxidizing their skin. Then they're eating bad food. So our ability to receive the sun's rays is also based on what we're putting in our body internally. And one of the most amazing things that I've read in my research about doing the sun therapy and just being able to build like a foundation, they call it a solar callus. Because I've never burned. I think I've burned maybe once in my life when I went to Mexico when I was 13, because I was putting oil on. I wasn't putting on like sunscreen or anything. I had no idea what I was doing and came straight from Chicago to Mexico. But we used to spend 90% of our days outdoors, and now we're spending 90% of our days indoors looking at blue light. And we're forgetting that connection. We used to wake up with the sun. When you wake up with the sun, that red light penetrates your eyes, and it actually gives your body the ability to combat the sun the rest of the day, so you're less likely to burn. And just living in sync with nature, watching the sunset. We're going to sleep better at night if we do that, if we wake up with the sun and watch the sunset. All those different UV lights, like, trigger so many things, and we're just so disconnected. We're indoors all the time, and then we go outside, we're eating horrible, we put sunscreen on, we burn, and then we're like, get skin cancer, and it's the sun's fault. It's not the sun's fault. It's not. It's our fault. Like, we have to be mindful of what we're eating and our connection to nature. We need to reconnect to nature. Like, if there's one thing, a common thread in everything that I share, it's the reconnection to nature throughout our day, I think, is so important.
Yeah, it's so true. And you've shared about like eating your sunscreen, not literally, but eating foods that can protect your body against the damage of what the sun can do if you're not listening to the signals. What are some of those foods, fruits or vegetables that can help us protect our body?
Yeah, this has also kind of shifted for me in the last couple of months, but I'm on this ancestral diet right now where I'm all about nutrient dense foods, balancing my minerals. Mineral intake, I think, is not talked about enough. I feel like when we have the mineral balance in the body and we're getting these nutrient dense foods and we're eating in the summer, it's okay to eat sweeter foods, sweeter fruits, because we need that sugar. It's like it just makes sense if you think about what grows naturally closer to the equator. It's like these mangoes and bananas and sweet fruits. We need that sugar to help us, to protect us naturally. So the things that you don't want to eat are the seed oils, the vegetable oils, processed foods. Stuff like that is really not going to give your body the ability to protect yourself naturally, And just doing like building up that, I call it a solar callus, like just building it up, doing, 5, 10, 20 minutes a day. And, it's really interesting because your body tells you everything you need to know if we listen and not like cover it up with all these things,
It's so true. The only problem is my soul tells me to stay out as long as the sun is out. So that's where I have a little.
I'm right there with you. Sometimes I ignore that signal, but
I know.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay every once in a while.
It is. It is. And I live in New York, so I got to get it when I can. And that's my
Yes.
philosophy. the sun, no matter what time of the day it is, if it's out, you have to go out and get it because in a moment it can be gone. And then my day is almost ruined.
That's how it was in Chicago. It was like we would go, I remember when I first moved to California, people would always ask me, how are you so tan? And I'm like, we live in California. And I noticed that everyone that lived in California was terrified of the sun and everyone was pale. And I was like, what is going on here? Like in Chicago, in the summer, everyone is tan. I mean, ridiculous. Baby oil, we used to use tinfoil. I mean, we would worship the sun because we didn't see it for half of the year. So yeah, I remember that being so interesting when I first came to LA. Is like, everyone's like, why are you so tan? I'm like, we live in a sunny place. What do you mean? I'm outside all the time.
That would be me as well. I often think if I move somewhere warm, I would never get work done because I just need to be outside. I would need an outdoor office, that's all. So something else that you really debunked for me was retinol and the need for retinol. Because every single time I used retinol, I would see deeper wrinkles. I swear to you. And they would say, just keep going. Doctors and estheticians would say, just keep going. You have to like get through that dry period. And my intuition would just say, no, run. Like, do not use this. And I've spent so much money on products that I'm literally just wasting and I don't even care because my intuition was like, no, you do not need this. So tell us a little bit about your products. I have the face oil on right now, the youth face oil. I love it. It gives, you could just see I have zero makeup on. I want to get into that too because I have a whole conspiracy theory right now around makeup.
Oh, I love it.
I'm trying my best not to wear makeup as often as possible. I put your glow oil on right before, and it literally gives you a glow. It has like a pigmentation to it, like a beautiful, I want to say like a reddish golden color, and it gives you just this color and this glow. So tell us about your products. Tell us about what's in them and why you have been using them forever and why you look the way you do.
Thank you. Well,
It's
oh my
just,
gosh, there's so many ways I could take this. But again, like when I was modeling, I was, going to, basically since high school, I was going to the little hippie health food store, buying oils, making my own products. And then I would go to these huge shoots and everybody was using La Mer and Lancome and all these like designer things and doing all these things. And they had like acne and all these issues. And like, I was just like over here, like, doing little like oil, and I'm like, what are they doing? And then everyone would be like, what are you using on your skin? Da, da, da. And I just like started to notice a pattern here, like all these girls that are like these big models and they're using all these crazy things, like, and they're always dealing with like skin issues, and then when I started doing more research, when I became a skincare owner, I realized that 90% of people have a broken acid mantle. Like their skin barrier is just destroyed from using all these actives like retinol and all these other different products that just completely destroy our skin. When we use products that are compatible with the microbiome of our skin's own innate wisdom can flourish. We really don't need to do that much. That's why I always say less is more. And when you talk about like retinoids, like it's chemical retinoids that I'm against. They are highly toxic, reproductive issues, health issues. I mean, the list goes on and on. If you look it up on EWG, where they can rate all the different ingredients, it is absolutely horrible for you. Not only that, it makes you more sun sensitive. It makes your skin more sensitive. So like for someone like me who loves the sun, or anybody, if you were to use retinol and then go in the sun without a hat or, 50 sunscreen, you're going to get hyperpigmentation and you're going to get a bunch of other issues, So the Youth Beauty Face Oil that you're wearing, for example, has rose hip seed in it, which is vitamin A, which is retinic acid. It gives you the same benefits of a chemical retinoid without all the negative side effects. So nature already has everything that we need. If you're using chemical retinoids and then you're going in the sun even for 5 minutes, you're going to get hyperpigmentation because it makes your skin sun sensitive. So do these hydrochloroquines. There's even certain essential oils that are a lot of citrus oils that are in so many facial oils that make you more sun sensitive. I mean, when I look at some of these ingredients, I'm like, what is going on? The beauty industry has created a vicious cycle where they're selling you the problem and the solution. The hydrochloroquine, the retinol, all these things, it's creating this vicious cycle where then you're going to get more hyperpigmentation, then you're going to need this, then you're going to need that, da da da. And the craziest thing is everything already exists in nature. Yeah. The Youth Beauty face oil that you're wearing has rosehip seed in it, which has vitamin A, which is retinic acid. It gives you the same exact benefits of a chemical retinoid without the negative side effects and the toxins. Why would you not use that? Like, it just blows my mind that we've been so brainwashed thinking that what we need doesn't already exist in nature. I mean, all of my products are based on ancient wisdom that have stood the test of time. I'm not like reinventing the wheel. I'm taking oils that have been around for centuries for healing and beauty rituals. And I feel like less is more when you use natural, organic products consistently and align yourself with nature. Yeah. You'll radiate and be beautiful, like no matter what your age, you know? And we don't need to like fight it so much. I'm getting a lot of interesting feedback. I'm very active on all my social platforms. And sometimes people say that I don't look like I'm 42 or 43. I'm 43. And I'm like, I think people forget that like you don't die when you're 43. like my mom is 65 and still looks radiant. Like, I think we're forgetting that, like, you can still look 43 without doing Botox and without doing retinoids and without doing, like, it's a, like, and even if you have some wrinkles, like, I have lots of wrinkles, it's okay, you know, you can still be radiant and have glowing skin. So...
True. It's so true. I don't know if you follow Noi Skincare, Donna. She's another.
I don't, but you know what? Somebody else was just talking about her today.
Yeah, she's just amazing too. And she said the same thing to me when I speak to her. She's like, people are forgetting. I think she's past 35. I don't know exactly how old she is. She hasn't had fillers, hasn't had Botox. She has a gorgeous squash stone that she uses a lot. And she said to me, she's like, Erica, people forget that like in your upper 30s, you could still be beautiful. You could still be radiant. And she's like, sure, I have lines. She looks exceptional just like you do. So people, I think that we have learned to give our power away greatly, and we forget that the radiance comes, yes, it's outward radiance that they see in you, but so much comes within as well. And I think with people doing these other things to stay young at such a young age, we kind of been programmed to think, well, you can't possibly look radiant at this age if you haven't done this. And it's just kind of a mindset that we're in right now that hopefully we're debunking and breaking through, because I really hope to continue to use all the things that the earth gives me and continue to be radiant and beautiful inward and outward. But what you said is exactly my conspiracy theory I have around makeup right now. I feel like the beauty industry is creating a problem by making us feel like we have to put this literal crap on our face every day. Like, I feel like I'm literally wearing dirt on my face, but it's worse than dirt because it's not from the earth. And I just don't want to do it anymore. And I think about, like, people are always saying how like great men age. And I'm like, well, what are they doing that we're not doing? Or what are we doing that they're not doing? And I'm like, they're not putting makeup on their face all the time. And like something that I grew insecure about is like my wrinkles around my eyes. But obviously it's because I live a happy life and I smile a lot and I'm in the sun a lot. So sometimes I'm squinting. But what I realized what I was doing is I'm putting all of this stuff around my eyes to make them look better. But what is that stuff that I'm just putting on? What is that really doing to my skin? So I'm trying my best to stay in this space of no makeup as often as possible and using all these amazing products. And I'm grateful that you're in this space creating resources that we could have and use and continue to hold that radiance. Do you wear makeup? And if you do, tell me some brands that are guilt-free.
So I have makeup on right now, but on my day-to-day, I don't wear makeup. I say I'd wear makeup maybe once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I don't really wear a lot of makeup. I definitely don't do like a foundation or a base or anything like that. So I have mascara, eyeliner, bronzer, and blush on right now.
Okay.
And the mascara is, I'm going to forget. They're all organic. Anika is the bronzer.
Okay.
Eye of Horus is the blush. The mascara, I don't know why I can't think of it right now.
Is it
And what did you say?
Ilia?
Yes, it's Ilia. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And the eyeliner, my girlfriend just got it for me. I can't remember the name, but it's non-toxic. It's just like a black little, So I love showing the skin.
Yeah.
Like you were just talking about, it's so beautiful to put. The Youth Beauty Face Oil has so much beta carotene and antioxidants, so it's this beautiful, like, rich golden color, so it gives you a natural glow. And then you put a little bit of bronzer. I don't put any concealer under my eyes. I don't do concealer. I don't do foundation. And it's interesting because as I've gotten older, well, I have a lot of things on makeup, but I think because I was a model my whole life, I loathe makeup. I loathe the makeup chair. I've always hated it because it was just like the worst. Like I just hated the cakiness of it and everything. So on my free time, I never wore makeup. But then also, I forgot what else I was going to say about that. But when you have good skincare products, you don't need to like use all these other things. Oh, as I've gotten older, I've noticed I don't want to put a bunch of concealer under my eyes because it actually just focuses more on the wrinkles. I think if you have dark circles, it helps a little bit. But same, when I smile, I get all these wrinkles, and then it actually brings more attention. So
I agree.
I'd rather just be glowy and focus on the skin texture and embrace my little wrinkles.
What do you do for your under eyes? Because they're non-existent. Like soon as I got on here, I was like, damn, her skin.
Aw, thank you so much. I think a lot of it is, genes. I never had any like dark circles or anything like that. That's one thing I have going for me. But I think diet plays a role, getting enough sleep. Under the eyes is associated with like liver. Okay. I don't drink. I don't drink just because I have RA. I mean, I drink maybe like we were just in Costa Rica. I had a drink for my son's birthday. I drink very casually. And then, of course, I think gua sha is amazing. My gold wand, I love doing like facial massage just to get lymphatic flow. A lot of people don't realize that like we get toxic buildup of lymph in our face. And just doing gua sha or facial massage, you can just pull that fluid out and look sculpted. It's insane.
Yeah. I love when you show the videos of you like retraining your muscles with your stone. It's just, I love those. It's so inspiring, and it reminds me to get back on my practice, because all of this takes time. All of this like spiritual practice, our self-care practice, it all takes time. It's like a full-time job.
All the holistic stuff. And that's what I tell people. Anything holistic, you have to do a little bit more consistently. Yeah. You have to be on it more. It's not a quick fix like Botox or like something you would do cosmetically, but you're gonna get the benefits long term. It's just like a practice that just becomes. And gua sha has become a love affair with gua sha. It's really like a time where and lately even with my family, a lot of and some people that follow me know I just moved, and we've been enjoying time by the fire, and I just put the oil on and do my gua sha with my family. Like I sit here and do it. Like you don't have to be in the mirror, you can just love up on yourself anytime. So
it's such a nice way to wind down as well.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it in the evening. I try to do it in the morning, so like the effects are all day long, but in the evening it's so nice to wind down with that. So I saw the other day you post and share something. Someone asked you on a Q&A about your spiritual teachers, and I loved your answer. I thought it was so interesting and different, and I want you to share a little bit about your spiritual practice, any spiritual practices you have, and who your teachers are or what your teachers are.
Yeah. So I get asked this a lot, like in the last couple of years, and I've kind of had to like piece it together, realizing that we're all spiritual beings when we come here. And I think some of us are gifted with certain parents or certain circumstances that allow you to keep that spirituality and connection. And I was really grateful that my mom and my cousin Jessica, who I was talking about, really encouraged me to stay in that space. They never made me feel weird. I was a very unusual child, like talking to spirits and spending time alone. And, I was very unusual walking in nature by myself. And because I never really felt alone, I always kind of felt like I had this spiritual tribe around me. Yeah. So I was very grateful to have that tribe, real tribe, being like, you can continue that spiritual path, that connection. I think for me, though, there came a time where I was like, oh gosh, I have to like live this human experience. I can't just be floating around all the time. Mm-hmm. And that I had to get grounded and rooted into this life and like, get a job and do all those things that really make you human, which that's when most of us, like we go to school and we get programmed and, we have to be in society. That's usually when most of us lose our connection to spirituality. And then all of a sudden we're trying to find it again because we're so stressed out and our life went to shit. So now we're like, we need to go to yoga. We need meditation. We need to get back to that connection that we always had. That's why it's a remembrance for so many. It's not something new. It's like, oh, this is home. This is where I feel. So when I track it back, I feel like I've always had that connection. And for me, my hardest part has been living this human life. Yeah. And being in this body and doing what I'm supposed to do here. So I think it's a constant balance. But as I mentioned before, like yoga saved my life a million times. If there was any spiritual teacher in my life, I would have to say it was all my yoga teachers. Because anything that draws you back inward to yourself, I think, is a spiritual teacher. And that's nature for me. That's my yoga teachers. And that's always what I'm trying to do in anything that I'm sharing, whether I'm talking about the sun or I'm talking about, more of a spiritual thing. It's like, I encourage everybody to just tap in with their own knowingness. Yeah. Because that's where your inner compass is, and it's different than mine. So where that's going to guide you might be completely different than the choices that I would make. So I think just allowing that time for yourself every day, whether it's a meditation or it's chanting or it's a mantra or it's a walk, or just allowing that space to hear your inner wisdom, mm-hmm. and then being wise enough to actually follow what it says.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true when you speak about remembrance. And I think what's so important in the times that we're living in, there's so much noise on the outside. And to find the people or the Instagram accounts or the books that help you remember your truth and remember the consciousness that lives within you. And that's what I shared before. When I go to your page, that is what I feel. You remind me of what is true. Not that every single thing or everything I do is exactly aligned with you, but how you express yourself reminds me of what is true within me. And it's so important to have those people in your life or those places to go, because it can be so loud. It can be so cloudy out there, and you could easily lose your way. And of course, having a practice, Kundalini is it for me, where I strengthen my intuition and I have that voice within me. And then having places to go, like, as I said, your account or books that I've read. And that's what I want to touch upon. Bringers of the Dawn, and what I'm reading now, Family of Light, is channeled through the Pleiadians. And I've I want to go deeper with them. I want to connect to them in a way I've never wanted to before. It's almost like when the world gets darker, I want to connect even deeper with this energy. And I want to know about your experience and the teachings maybe that you connect to or receive from the Pleiadians, what the Pleiadians are. This is the first time I'm ever talking about this to my community, other than recommending these books that just speak to my soul and unlock my truth and my knowing.
Well, I want to preface, I've never read any book about the Pleiadians, so I probably should, but I have this weird thing that I did even when I was writing my book. I didn't want to read anything because I didn't want it to cloud the downloads I was getting. So I feel like there's a deeper connection with, these star seeds, the Pleiadians and the Seven Sisters. And it's interesting because my husband was the first person to tell me. He said, you're a Pleiadian. And I was like, what are you talking about, honey? He's like, oh, yeah. He's like, I've been looking for you my whole life, And then I started looking at these characteristics of what a starseed or specifically a Pleiadian. I said, okay, I definitely fit this mold. And what it reminded me of is back in like 2010, I used to write a lot of blogs on being an empath. So I think a lot of people that were empaths are now starseeds. And whether we're from another planet or another galaxy or anything like that's a little far for me. But I feel like there's people that are here right now, and we chose to be here for a reason. And there's an inner drive. Like I have a drive inside of me to be the light that keeps me up at night. Like it's beyond what I like don't have control over it. It's like I need to share, I need to help, and I think that there's dozens of different star seeds. There's another one that my friend just told me about, Arcturians, I think they're called, and she thinks that I also might be one of them. And I think I haven't done enough research to know actually about, I know there's lots of sightings and stuff like in Northern California. Me and my girlfriend just did a whole thing here actually where we tried to connect with them, and we did have some really interesting, cool things happen here at my new house. But I feel like it's just, there's a lot of people that are here right now trying to help elevate consciousness and humanity. And we're doing it in all of our different ways, whether it's through social media or our podcasts or, whatever it is. It's just to be the light. And it's within the darkest moments that we are called to do the best work,
Yeah. I have chills. Speaking to my soul. Oh my goodness. Yes. So my last question for you, although I could sit here and talk to you all day, I would love to know if there's a theme or lesson of your previous generation, so your 20s, your 30s, your 40s. I know that you're just starting your 40s, but is there a theme or a lesson or something that you could just capture from each of those to show just your evolvement and your growth? Any wisdom you want to share from each of them?
I would probably say in my 20s, my son just turned 18 and I'm trying to drill this into him, but I was so insecure in my 20s and nobody would have known it looking at me because I always held myself with grace and confidence. But I think I prevented myself from doing a lot of things because I just wasn't confident. So I wish I had said more. I wish I had said yes to more things. I wish I would have felt worthy. That was something that came later in life. I think when I became a mom and I had purpose all of a sudden. My 30s were my favorite time. I really felt like I came into my own. I had just recovered from rheumatoid arthritis for the first time after not walking for like a year. I felt on top of the world. I felt the strongest I could in my body. And that was such a beautiful time. I think the 40s for me, what's been different about the 20s and 30s is I've always kind of had this essence of like, can I curse right now?
Of course.
I've always had this like, I don't give a fuck what people think about me type of attitude.
Yeah.
But it's really come out in the 40s. Like, it's like, I just don't have time to even like ponder low vibrational stuff. Like, I don't even give it the energy, and I really don't care. Like, I'm just, and I really wish I would have had all those things like earlier on, but we learn these things as time goes on. I think that's
Totally.
yeah.
Your throat chakra's clear as hell.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's definitely, I feel like it's very hard to be in that space, and it takes time, it takes a lot of practice, and it takes that light that you have within you that's just forcing you to share your truth and be that light. And it could be really, really hard, but you do it with such courage and grace and poise. And I thank you for your courage and all the things that
Thank
you
you
share.
so much.
It's
Thank you so much
impacted
for saying
so
that.
many people, more than you'll ever know, most likely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Where can everyone find you? Where can they find your amazing skincare? Next thing that I'm going to get is the mask. I can't wait for that. I'm loving this oil. I'm going to do the mask next, but tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find your products, and all the amazing things that you offer.
So I'm most active on Instagram, Jessie Golden. And then thegolden.secrets.com is my skincare line. And we also have an Instagram page for that, The Golden Secrets. And I'm on all the social platforms as well, TikTok and Twitter and Facebook, and doing all the things. But Instagram is where I'm most active.
Amazing. Can you pick like two of your favorite products from your line that are like must-haves? Is that so hard for me to ask? I'm sorry.
It's so hard, like for different reasons. I mean, the Youth Beauty Face Oil is our best seller, and I think it's just, it's just insane. We had a team meeting yesterday, and I was just like, I really want to like get people to understand how rich and thick it is before they buy it.
It is.
Yeah, because like once you buy it, you're gonna buy it again. But like I want to get those new customers that think it's just like another face oil, and I'm like, I want to like explain to them.
Yeah, it's rich and thick. That stood out to me actually when I first started using it. Do you pat it on or do you rub it in?
So I recommend putting it into your hands, rubbing your hands together, and then patting it on, but
That's right.
always to a damp face.
Okay.
So that's why, I mean, it's so hard to choose two, but I mean, if we're just going to focus on two, the Aura Beauty Mist is 100% botanical. It's got peptides, red Arctic peptides, and that's what you spray on the face before, and then while the skin is still damp, put on the oil. It just penetrates the skin, locks in the hydration. It's a much smoother application, and you'll notice you don't need as much oil when you do it that way as well. And then the Aura Beauty Mist is just so nice because like throughout the day, if you just need like a little refresher, you could just spray it on. I just like constantly spray. I mean, that's number one trick for anti-aging is keeping your skin plump and hydrated. Instead of drying it out. That's another myth that we've been told, like wash your face till it's squeaky clean and dry, and we really don't ever want that.
So true. And that's what you wear as perfume too, right?
So my signature blend is like what I've worn since I was 15. It's like synonymous with who I am as a human. But it's a blend of organic essential oils. The original formula is based on an ancient Roman formula to entice love and romance and abundance. And it's just this beautiful, subtle scent. And the beautiful thing about working with essential oils, like I created this before, like doTERRA and all these things. Now people are more knowledgeable about essential oils, but back in the day I was trying to explain to people, unlike perfumes that have toxic fragrances and all these parabens and phthalates and all these hormone disrupting toxins, Essential oils work with your own body chemistry and create a scent as unique as you. And our body chemistry is constantly changing. So like you could put the oil on 1 month, let's say like when you're not on your moon cycle, and it could smell something. You could maybe smell like the earthier notes, or like your body chemistry makes it smell a certain way. And then maybe when on your moon cycle, it smells a little bit more jasmine-y, or your boyfriend might be like, hey, it's so cool that it works with your body instead of against it. Like,
really is.
All fragrance, toxic perfumes.
Yeah. It's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here and being on. I hope everyone who's listening checks you out on Instagram. I'm telling you, so worth the follow. It's just an energetic portal being part of Jessie's community. So please check her out. Thank you everyone for joining and listening in. And may the long time sun shine upon you. Have a great day.